Hi everybody, welcome to Overtime. I'm Art Miles. I've had a really great time interviewing my old friends over these past few episodes. We started out with David Martin, 3-part episode. We spoke to Steve Ofeld, entertainment reporter. We spoke to our old news director, Bill Avery. We had Beth Sherman. We had Joanne Bauer. We had a 2-hour get-together with a lot of the original cast and crew. This week we're going to be interviewing Donald and Janice Jones, the very first weekend meteorologist and first weekend anchor. So if I was to move the camera, I've got like the fake vines going all the way down. And then on one side has got the outfield pole with the feet marker on how far, and then all the way down on the other side, it's a whole thing. But right above you, it's like center field, and it says 400 above it, meaning like that's the outfield fence.
Yeah, nice.
Yes, but that's not why we came here. Hi, how are you guys doing?
Good, how are you? Good.
You know what? I was looking back at the interview, the 2-hour interview that we did. We didn't get hardly any chance to really talk with Janice because she had kind of scooted in and scooted out. So we have a lot of questions for you, Janice, of course. But the two of you had mentioned that you had started out in Savannah before coming to Fox 35. You have somebody in Savannah right now, actually?
We do, our oldest.
Yes. How's that going there? The Savannah School of Art and Design? No, I said that wrong.
SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design.
Yes.
The sophomore now, and he's doing splendidly well. We're excited for him and proud of him. Dean's List, keep it going.
He has a field of study that he likes there.
Production design.
Yeah.
Oh, where did he get it from? Where does he get it from?
Well, and it's much more creative than our side.
Yes.
It's production design with maybe a concentration in themed entertainment, but
designing experiences.
Themed entertainment. That's a great tagline. I noticed a year ago or 2 years ago, this is not the reason why we called you guys, but let's talk about it anyway. 2 years ago, UCF started a themed experience master's program.
Right.
And for those people who love Universal Studios and Disney and want to be an Imagineer one day, it's kind of like a study you can go in when you get your master's degree. The Science of Themed Experience, I think it was called. And they're doing that. And my oldest
specialties at SCAD.
And they call it UX. It's called UX, user experience as well.
Different, actually.
Yeah, that's actually a different, right? It goes into when you walk into an environment, what do you feel? What do you smell? What do you see? Yeah.
Savannah is such a beautiful town. Why, at the time, back in the late 90s, why would you ever want to leave Savannah? It was just so beautiful there, except for the 120-degree summers.
Hey, we were there for our careers, and Savannah was Market
100 at the time. And it was it was both our first jobs as far as your first.
I was in Jacksonville
on-air
first
weather.
as a producer, and then I went and had my first on-air job, as he said, doing the weather in Savannah. So we were climbing the ladder. That's why we left Savannah.
Yeah, and it was my first job right out of college, but it was a market, even though we say mid-size at 100, it was a market that really lent to giving you great opportunities for that market size. They sent me I was gone Africa. I went to Africa for 2 weeks to cover Operation Support Hope with our local troop response in flying sorties into all these refugee camps. They sent us on the large flooding stories where I remember going out in the southeast, not only western part of Georgia, but even farther out when we had these epic weather events. They sent us to Miami to follow the Grand Prix because they were thinking about bringing a track to Savannah. Yeah. They weren't hesitant to send you places. And Janice had a lot of...
We were at the big powerhouse in Savannah, so that was something that benefited.
Yeah, it was a long time. It was the long on-air, first station on-air in Savannah, and there were a lot of opportunities, so it was great.
All the more reason I want to ask the question again. Why would you ever want to leave there? It sounds so nice there.
Well, we were at different stations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, super cool story. We had met interning at a TV station during our summer terms in college. He went to University of Florida. I went to Florida State.
And that internship was in Jacksonville?
In Jacksonville, yeah. And we didn't date then, but we kind of re-met when we both got jobs in Savannah. And that's when we began dating. And we had a mutual friend who had worked in Savannah with him and then came to my station in Jacksonville and worked with me. And then
ultimately left Jacksonville and was in Orlando at the NBC affiliate.
And we went to Orlando to visit him. And while we were down there playing at Disney World,
actually,
our friend.
And actually, well, no, he was out of town. He said, y'all can crash at my place.
Oh, that's right.
And if you're going to go to the parks, why don't you crash at my place? And by the way, do you have any available resume tapes ready? Because they're doing, this
There's a
startup.
news station, a station that's starting a newscast in Orlando, and they're hiring right now. While you guys are down there, you should drop tapes off.
And he knew Lewis. And
Perfect.
He said, I know Lewis, he's there, he's been hired, and he tells us all the details. It's like, you should just try to get by and drop them off. And the story goes is, at first we were like, do we arrive unannounced? We didn't hear anything about it. We didn't have any specifics. We were already like leaving and on the way, and we just grabbed our tapes.
Yeah.
And
we grabbed tapes. We went and played in Orlando, and on the way out of Orlando back to Savannah, we stopped, we pulled off I-4. We knocked on the door.
It's raining.
Lewis answered the door, like in shorts and all casual.
Yeah.
He like kind of cracked the door open, and we said,
hello.
Here are some tapes. He said, thanks.
Well, we mentioned the name.
Door,
we're like, Mike Gemelli. He goes, oh yeah, Mike. And, and we're like, he mentioned your name and said, drop these off. And we were just going through town and hi, nice to meet you. And we thought, man, those are just going to end up in the, file 13 because it was, hi, thanks.
Right. Quickly opens the door, grabs 2 VHS tapes and closes the door. And you're like, well, that's the end of that.
Yeah.
All right. We did it.
And then apparently on your drive back or something, you got a call or something?
Yeah. Well, this is, we argue over this story because we don't remember well, but I guess we didn't have cell phones then. I was thinking I had gotten a cell phone call.
We had cell phones, but you didn't have them on you, and you were, right? It was
right.
Beep, 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 beep.
They weren't attached to us the way they are now. Yeah.
And either we weren't traveling, and they didn't, or nobody had our number. And by the time we got back to Savannah, walk into my apartment, we push play on the tape voice machine.
Let me rewind the tape first.
He goes, hey, dude, where are you guys? Lewis just called me. They want you to come by. Are you still there? Are you still there?
Yeah.
And we're like,
I had messages from Bill Avery.
We're like, is this a joke?
Saying, we're interested in both of you.
Yeah.
Which was,
which was great.
Unheard of.
and we were excited about that because we were hoping we could get to the same station together.
So you turned the car around and you headed back. No, probably not right away.
Yeah.
No, I don't even remember what month that was, but we do remember that. So we were hired as the weekend meteorologist and news anchor together, which we were super excited about.
Yeah.
And
I've been thinking about that a lot too. As you look at stations, we flip through channels all the time. You watch news all the time. Is there ever been a situation where there was a husband and wife at an anchor desk that you can think of?
Yeah.
Yes.
We know another one.
So, and was it very well known, or was that not that it was a secret, like we can't say, but it's not like you talked about it on the air at the anchor desk?
Yes.
No, no, I think there were times where, we didn't let on to that, and we didn't,
between us, were there other people that were well known? Yes, I know of some that were well known.
Right, but nobody knew because
not many people knew we were.
Jan was doing her job, I was doing my job. We were being professional, and we had a good rapport just like everyone else.
Right.
But we would be out later grocery shopping once things started going.
Oh, yes.
And somebody went, oh.
Somebody connected the two together.
I remember being at Einstein Bagels in Lake Mary, and the lady, we must have gone in there regularly, and she got to recognize our faces. And one day she clued in that we were married, and she said, this whole time I thought you were brother and sister.
Because the super comes up and it says Donald Jones, Janice Jones. There'd be times
I wasn't Janice Jones. I went by my maiden name, and when I moved to Orlando, I changed
you made the switch.
my name. And so we were married names on TV. Yep.
And there were times that the weekend show would end and you'd both be at the anchor desk at the same time, sometimes with sports anchor as well, but it'd be the two of you there. I worked a lot of weekends there with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that didn't go, he started a month ahead of me in February. because I had to stay in Savannah for ratings. My station wouldn't let me go until
Wouldn't
after
let you
ratings
go.
were over. So as you just celebrated, March 1st was the on-air night. I think that was probably my first day because I couldn't leave during ratings month, which was February. So I literally was thrown to the wolves, came to the station, and it was time in the next few days to go on air for me.
Yeah.
And for you, those hurricanes, those tornadoes and brush fires that happened before you guys launched, you weren't there for those, Janice, or you were?
No, I think they continued into March because certainly they were. Well, the tornadoes were before me.
Right. I mean, we remember
fires were during us there because we also are from St. Augustine. I grew up in St. Augustine. He grew up in Jacksonville, and I remember having to drive home quickly from Orlando because my house in St. Augustine had been evacuated and threatened. The home I grew up in.
And your parents
were out of the country.
Your parents were gone. Geez. And we went to the house and we were on the roof, like spraying down with the hose and getting important things out of the house. And fortunately, they were able to stop the line of the fire, but it stopped like right in the woods behind them. And then we were back. That was on our day off.
We were covering it and part of it, reporting it.
Yeah.
Wow. So that was a very exciting time for you guys. You just got new jobs. Donald, you're on the air. Suddenly you're on the roof of somebody's house, hosing it down. It was exciting. It was a good thing that happened to you in your younger years, for sure.
Yeah. It was definitely a great experience. That's for sure.
So when you decided to come to Orlando, because of the demo tape success, did you both come together for an interview? Was it done over the phone, or did you actually come back for like a sit-down interview?
Everything was at that point. Then I think we asked, and I think Bill said, no, I've seen what I need to see. I'll talk. They were talking to us over the phone, and they talked to me separately and talked with Janice separately. Bill handled it really well. It was, this is what you're going to do, or we'd like you to do, and here's your deal. And then they went over here and did that. We didn't, it was handled well, and we treated it that way.
I don't remember going in for an interview.
No, it was all on the phone, and by that point,
it happened super fast.
Yeah,
I think Bill made a decision.
Yeah,
wow.
And by that time, we were doing talks like, okay,
raring to go.
Here's what we're going to do contract wise or whatever.
Did you happen to ever ask after the fact, Janice, how many other weather demo tapes came into the station?
Never even thought to ask.
So that's just that you came in that one day, you brought that tape in, Lewis brought it in from out of the rain, and they put that tape in, and they were like, call them back right now.
Yeah. Yep, that's what the story was that was shared with us. Yep, for sure.
Wow. Yeah, it was again super grateful to this day. Sure. It was a fantastic opportunity. It all came together nicely. Jan gets put into that position. I'm on the weekend with her. I was just hoping to get down there and get a reporting job, and then I'm weekend anchor. Reporting, and then Joanne was single anchor, but then I had the opportunity when Joanne was off that I would be the fill-in for Joanne.
Right.
So it was a great opportunity for us. And then it wasn't long. Janice was with me for just a short time because then she was promoted to chief. To weeknight.
Which was a great, in our opinion, but an interesting move from Bill Avery, already making the choice to have a woman solo anchor and then moved me to chief meteorologist. And then there were two main women with Scott Burridge on the
sports staff.
Yes. Do you happen to remember your conversation, Janice, that you had with Bill when he said we're switching you to weekdays?
I don't remember the specifics of it.
Or was it just like he poked his head in the door of weather and said, hey, you're going to work Monday through Friday now, and just close the door?
No. I think he was more formal and respectful and called me in his office and said, we're going to make some changes. Of course, I had a partner in the weather department who had been doing the main, the main chief meteorologist, and that was Ken Daly. And he was a great guy, and he and I got along well. So, to receive that news is great for me, but I also have to, it was impacting someone I worked closely with.
Sure. You were an office of two people pretty much, right?
We were a team. Yeah.
Your team.
And
yes.
So of course it was great news for me, and I was very excited, to be performing well. and to have that opportunity. And Bill was very, very respectful and good about that conversation and in offering it to me. And then we switched.
Wow.
We switched positions.
Going back to Savannah for a second, were you both in the middle of contracts where you currently were working, and was there some sort of out clause for a top 20 market?
I did not have an out. Did you have an out?
I didn't have an out.
Somehow, again, it all fell into place.
I had to work for it.
Jan you had to work for it and like really push. And it was, yes, it was the story of, we both have this opportunity. I think as intensive as my station was giving you all these opportunities, and I had put 5 years in, there were folks that had stayed for a long, long time, but they had also seen those that came along as reporters and put in time and then just grew, and they knew that it was going to be hard to keep them in the nest because they were ready just to blossom and hit the next big market. And
that Savannah is, a stepping stone market. Mm-hmm. Unless you're a main anchor that is settled in there and you want to stay there for a long time.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of expected. So for me, it was leaving my contract early, but it was a very understandable thing. And it's a great job offer going to top 25 market.
Yeah.
And so my news director, who I got along well with, who really liked me there in Savannah, I think, of course, didn't want to see me go, but of course wanted to see me go, wanted to see me go. And so when I say he made me work for it, he taught me something about negotiation on my way out the door. Wow. And it was challenging, but sat me down at one point and said, you realize I'm teaching you about negotiation in order for you to take that with you to your next job. Because there is so much. I mean, it's a very competitive business, and it was from this station that we went on to get an agent to have someone else do that negotiation for you.
That was what I was going to say too, because you go to school for meteorology, for example, and you get a degree and you want to get into television, but they don't teach you anything about that. You didn't probably take a negotiation class.
Oh, yeah, I did with that news director.
Yeah,
right. With that,
in Savannah. But right, you're right.
There's things they don't teach you at journalism school, and then that would have been one of those things. And so, you come to
you can't afford an agent. So
of course. So you come to Orlando. The definition of putting all your eggs in one basket, and you decide to take the jobs that are offered. Initially, when you move here, did you buy? Did you rent? Was it an apartment? Did you get a house right away? Did you not want to buy just in case?
Again, that was the learning process where we had just gotten married in
1 year earlier.
97, March of 97. It'll be our anniversary in
a couple
2 days.
Yep.
This is going to air on Friday, so happy anniversary to the Jones family. That's very nice. Do the math real quick. How many years?
26.
26. Okay. 26.
We were one of only a few, married
couples.
That's true. Looking at the station at that time, a lot of people, I remember when I got there, no one was married. And then around the same time, everybody got married, got engaged. Everybody got married. We all had our 2 kids and around the same time. But you come to the station already married.
That way, we were the old ones, which weren't really significantly older than anyone, but we were married. Yeah.
But we got an apartment to answer your question.
Oh, okay. So you got an apartment.
We got down there, and actually, I had to get down there a month earlier. We were like scrambling, so we found an apartment, which was great on the other side of I-4, so it wasn't a long commute to work.
Okay, good.
Oh boy, David Martin used to tease us because we were at the Lake Mary exit, and he'd say, "Come on down and let's go out," and we'd say, "Oh, we have to get on I-4 to do that."
Oh, that's funny.
We would go over I-4 to work, and of course, work was your world.
Right.
We would joke.
To have to go an exit down or an exit up was like, oh.
Yeah. To go over I-4, no problem, but to go on I-4, no. You come here.
We saved that for the Mustang. The personal cars we just took home. Right?
So some of the bigger stories that happened right as the station was launching, we had mentioned before. Lewis had talked about how the tornadoes had hit, Janice, and then you got sent out to do something with him or for him when it came to the tornadoes. Do you recall that at all?
I went out with Lewis.
Or it was because of, had to do with something where a photograph or a video was taken of one of the tornadoes, and you couldn't really tell what it was because it was dark out until like the lightning came and it lit up this photograph. And the picture, he had showed it to me. I'll pop the picture up here as we're talking about it. It was a picture of a tornado at nighttime coming towards the camera. And he remembers that you had gone to, not a symposium, it was some kind of thing that you went to right close to when you started working there. Do you recall anything about going to an event talking about storms? Or I also have another thing I'll put up. It's a picture of you at some sort of event that you were going to be going to, and it was like an advertisement for that.
Oh, well, that's what you created.
Yes, I created, and that's part of something that I wanted to make sure to address with you. So you brought up two things. Lewis may be remembering something that was is seared in my memory. There was a significant storm with a significant tornado while we were on air. Mm-hmm. And this was at a time that the Weather Center was not in the studio. I don't know how it is today. And it's the only station I ever worked in where the Weather Center was in the newsroom.
Right.
So your equipment that you're using to build and to forecast on, typically is in the studio with you. So while the news is going on, you can be watching things and doing things with your equipment. But as Fox 35 was set up back then,
right,
the weather department was still in the newsroom. So it was down the hall.
But then they did run a camera that you could do shots from there. That was later.
That's right. There was a camera put in the newsroom.
That was later.
So I was watching, I think it was the tower cam from the TV station. And while the news was going on, I was running back and watching this. And I saw the funnel cloud on the tower cam, and I came running down the hall I was late, close to being late for my live weather hit. And so by the time I got in to the studio, it was time for me to go on to report the weather, but I had been sprinting and I was breathless and pretty excited because I had spotted funnel cloud
tape. I have that tape.
Oh, no,
it's a blooper. It's on the blooper reel. And unfortunately, the blooper reel is on a DVC Pro. And I have not had any chance to convert the blooper tape, but you are on there totally out of breath. You came running in. And sometimes, when you're up at the wall or the green screen and you have to take a deep breath to get like a whole sentence out, and you were dying, weren't you, to just catch your breath?
I can still feel that death today. It really, like I told you, it scarred me. I mean, it was really, it was a learning experience. It shook me because, it was an exciting weather moment, but I also literally sprinted. And to contain that excitement and to keep myself controlled on camera and breathe.
And think about informing everyone.
Yeah, it was a super challenging moment for me. And I can't remember, since it was a night cast. I don't think the management would have been there after the show. Mm-hmm. But I think the next day I went right into the boss's office and was like, I screwed up. No. It was not good TV, but I wanted to explain myself and I wanted to learn from it, and I did.
You would think, and for that reason, the great way to start out the chapter of the Fox 35 book, and for that reason, the Weather Center was moved to the news desk. Or the news studio, because I remember all that running back and forth. But yeah, I'm so sorry I don't have that. You're not sorry. I don't think you wanted to see it. But I have the DVC tape, the blooper tape, and there's a series of things on there. And there's no setup to it. All you do is you just see, here's a funny clip or here's a blooper. And then suddenly, oh, here's Janice. And she is totally out of breath on camera. Oh, but then you explained it.
Fortunately, we were really close-knit newsroom. Mm-hmm. And so everyone was really supportive. No one really felt like, oh, Janice, I'm so sorry that happened to you. You know what they did? You were doing a 1-900 call on air. They just tormented.
A lot of heavy breathing with that weather bulletin.
In just a fun way, which really lifted the pressure, for me.
Put you at ease. That's good. Yeah. So I think I've been holding on to this box of tapes for so long now that there's only one DVC deck at Fox 35. I just visited there recently. I need to transfer. Apparently they still have one in master control.
We have a handful of DVC Pro tapes with some of our old stuff on it and funny
Right.
stuff. And like, gosh, we want our kids to,
Yeah, I know. You need to get that stuff
and
transferred
experience
over.
it. And I'm like, I can't, how in the world you can't,
Yeah.
even all these transfer businesses,
They
you
don't
can't
even
find a
recognize
DVC
those.
Pro.
I wish they just kept one of those laptop editors in the back. I could just take it home but yeah, apparently there is still one. It's still hooked up to Master Control, and maybe one day, maybe over the summer, I'll spend a little time there. I'll put a little visitor pass on, and I'll start transferring old tapes. Another thing, and we had discussed it in the group meeting, the 2-hour interview that we had, they still have the entire wall of all the DVC tapes from back in those days. So I think one by one, I mean, there's 1,000 of them. One by one, they should all be transferred over, and we should be able to have some great memories. Anytime you did a package and you did a stand-up, it would be really cool to see that again.
And a lot of the reporters had their same go-to tape, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
A lot of times, I think early on, I remember you would grab, 96-1 or whatever they were numbered.
You're right.
Yeah. And so you're like, well, I usually put mine on this, and when that would run out, you'd start another one.
Yeah. If you fed it into us, usually we put it on a tape for you. But if you came back to the station, you're right. Everybody would kind of grab their own favorite tape. So whatever that tape number may be, you find it, and you can have the history of Donald and Janice Jones on one of those tapes somewhere. So
the other thing that you reminded me about with that story, Art, is that the one thing that stands out, I worked in 4 newsrooms. And how many did you work in?
Three professional, including a year of a public television station, which was our college station.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the various newsrooms we worked in, what stands out the most from that newsroom was the youthfulness and the drive, and that Bill Avery empowered us to go out there and make change and impact the community with our storytelling, our reporting skills. And for me in weather, that meant the opportunity to really express what I was passionate about. And I was passionate about lightning education.
Oh,
and
yes.
so what came of that, what you might mention, is maybe you had an image of some event. That was an event that I got to start, called the Lightning Laboratory.
Yes, I clearly remember those images in my head of you going to the laboratory and stories that you would send back to us, the beautiful photos of the lightning.
And I interviewed lightning experts from around the country. We flew them in for the conference.
Emergency management folks were there.
Yeah, and I interviewed people who had been struck by lightning, and I learned all their different stories. And that was something that has stayed with me forever.
Sure.
And I went on for a decade or more to continue to do lightning education everywhere that I worked. And that gave me the experience, the expertise, and the confidence. And that was really from that nudge from Bill Avery.
So you're in Savannah. I got to imagine a part of the back of your mind, Janice. You're in Savannah and you hear, oh, there's a job opening in Orlando. I know a part of you must have said in the back of your mind, oh, that's the lightning capital of the world.
And tropical weather. Yes. Mm-hmm. But,
Savannah,
it was so much close to home. Where I grew up was right in between Savannah and Orlando. Mm-hmm. So it was in my wheelhouse. And that was great. When I left Orlando, we looked at Boston, and that was like, oh, that's a little out of my wheelhouse.
A big change, yeah.
Especially when the forecast snow.
We first landed in North Carolina, where I got the best of both worlds. And I really got to work on my winter forecasting skills, but really fine tune and bring to North Carolina my tropical experience, which I got to get in Orlando, having gone through Floyd, which was the largest peacetime evacuation at the time. I had people that were evacuated to my house while we lived at the station and were on air constantly. Remember, it was not a storm that hit, but the entire coast of Florida evacuated inland.
Right.
Yeah.
There were, and an example of that I wanted to look back to. Do you happen to recall the first time you were on air at Fox 35 where it went wall to wall, meaning there were no commercial breaks and it was all on weather and news about the weather?
It might have been just storm.
Probably Floyd.
Or
Floyd
would it have been the tornadoes that came after? There were It might have been tornadoes, not the rash of tornadoes that hit just before we went on. That was February.
Yeah.
But I thought there was another one after that.
Usually with tornadoes, I mean, they will do the wall-to-wall coverage, of course, after the destruction of those tornadoes would come through. But usually with the hurricanes, we get this notice. We know we've got a few days ahead. And then eventually it reaches the point where we're just wall-to-wall, no commercial breaks. You happen to recall doing that at all at Fox 35?
I think for Floyd.
Must have been.
I don't know if we were wall-to-wall. I can't remember if we had our morning newscast then.
No, it hadn't. I don't think
so. Were you guys still there when morning show started? Was that in 2000?
We were there when it started.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of when Floyd. Oh, that was a long time ago, wasn't it?
I should know that.
Right. You know what? There are significant ones, and then you start to merge you start to think about something and go, oh, that was that market, or this was this market.
I definitely remember sleeping on the floor of my Raleigh market through snowstorm after snowstorm after snowstorm. So that's really kind of cloudy.
And on the floor of emergency management
in Savannah.
Savannah. We were both there. I was there from my station.
That wasn't Floyd. No, it was Floyd.
No, that was
Fran.
No, Bonnie.
It
was a bee storm. I remember.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
There were times when we would spend the night at Fox 35 for sure, and there were times when you got to go out. I mean, you were both mostly at the station, but there were times when you got to go out and you got to do stories, not necessarily sweep stories, but just times when you got to go out. You get to hop in the Mustang. I imagine they were both at one time or another. You were both driving around in those Mustangs.
I would think I was more of a rider. I didn't get my own Mustang, but they didn't let me out a whole lot because I was kind of the anchor to the wind there.
Yeah.
But you certainly did. Well, you were out a lot more because you were anchoring 2 days a week and reporting free, right?
Do you have any Mustang experiences that you recall, Donald? For those of you who don't know, Fox 35 was known for their Mustangs, which they had 7 or 8 of that they paraded around town in.
I still have the Mustang keychain in the little shape of a Mustang.
Yeah. Nothing. It was zippity, right? You go in and out, but we didn't have the total juiced up ones. It's not like we were driving 8 cylinders, but
right.
I remember distinctly riding along in the Mustangs and going through, takeout or something on a lunch break.
Yeah.
And people were always like, "That's the coolest car." And you're like,
"That's the coolest news car." No, but it was like at first I was like, "Okay, this is good," but getting the cameras in and out, but it all worked out.
And if you happen to be driving in those Mustangs and going down I-4, eventually the time came where, and you'll have to let me know if this is the first time it happened to you, Janice, you were on the billboard on I-4. Is that the first time that had happened for you?
Yes, it was. Yes. And my parents pulled over on I-4 and took photos of it and sent them to me.
And fortunately, they didn't get a ticket like Ashton.
Oh, yeah, we heard that story. Yes.
He said she pulled over, was taking a picture, but that's my husband. No, you can't do that, man.
Still got a ticket. Yep.
Yes. Yeah, I still have that photo from, I don't know if it was mom or dad who jumped out of the car.
Speaking of which, you forgot the Kleenex.
I was going to bring that up next. You got the Fox 35 billboards
and
the Fox 35 Kleenex boxes, which I guess when you guys would go to events also, you would be handing those out, sometimes perhaps even autographing them and handing them out.
Yes. And they were, I guess they were impactful, but they sure tickled us, you're going to cry when you watch our newscast. I don't know.
They wanted to put something, we got to put something in people's houses that they'll see every day. So boom, you rotate it and here's the logo, here's Scott, here's Janice, and then you spin it again and there is Joanne. Yeah.
And I loved that, we really pushed the envelope again, it was a young, youthful, forward-thinking, creative team. And in the beginning, since there was one show, it really was a team. Right. We weren't divided. Everybody was working on the same newscast.
Right. It was the same
so we were so close.
And I think that's what's different about TV stations today, whereas everybody's working at different shows and the 2:00 meeting is probably scattered. And the 2:00 meeting was like we all got to get together every day, and we all got to spend the day together. I mean, the reporters and the photographers would go and branch out, but if you were in house, like Mikey and I were, and then the producers, and it really was the best time. That's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to do the interviews again and reflect on all that, because it really was the best time. Did I know it at the time? I thought it was a really cool job, but it isn't until you leave or the stations start to change that you realize, oh, this was really cool.
It was very special, and nothing will be like that again.
It can't. It won't ever be another news startup like that. And on that one time slot, I think we had a little taste of understanding that because we came from a station that had the morning show, had a noon show, had the 5, 6, and an 11 o'clock newscast, right? In Savannah. And so, you'd be like, oh my gosh, jokingly, when you'd see the morning anchor out somewhere and you were at nighttime, you were like, oh, it's the vampire, go home, right?
Yeah. You know the other half of the team very well sometimes,
So you're right. It was awesome to be there together.
And it's crazy to think all we did was a half-hour show for those first few years. How great was that?
I feel like we worked our butts off because, again, we were empowered to really get better and better at our jobs. But we also really enjoyed each other and played. I mean, has anyone talked about the ping pong tournaments?
Oh my gosh, yes. There was a brief time when weather got moved from the news area to when weather and sports were going to be in their own office. We got to move the ping pong table out of the studio, and it was in there for a while too. And those were the times with Steve Oldfield and the production crew that we really. I mean, if we had kept it up, we all would have been Forrest Gump level ping pong players the way we were playing every day.
I remember we had Polaroids. I think I still have some of them. I know I have.
Why didn't we bring it? I have it. It's in a
Polaroid. Everyone had a ping pong player name. And everyone made themselves look crazy, and then we got a Polaroid of them, and it hung like the tournament on the wall.
It was on a bulletin board, and that and then we did a tournament, and it was down to like the final four and
It was Steve Oldfield. I'm just going to assume he won it.
I'm pretty sure it was.
But but I guess that what was fun was, and I want to. There's a caveat here. Yes, it was the one show, and everybody worked hard.
Yes,
and wanted to do everything right on, and we had the time to commit to that, which made it nice, right? That was something that you just didn't get in other markets at the time because you were like bam, 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 bam,
right?
Which was great training for getting a job done, getting a story done right, and in a timely manner, and sometimes very short manner.
And if you were the lead story at the 10 o'clock show, that little half-hour show, that was kind of a big deal. If you were out that day or at 2 o'clock, you're like, okay, you're going to do this and you do that, and then you get out there and you suddenly realize this story that you're doing. Oh, this one's going to be the lead. It's a really big deal, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and it's pressure. And what's neat about TV news in general is that every day is fresh. First of all, you're learning new things every day. You're reporting on, it could be a different subject, completely different subject every day, right? But when you get in there, you start your day, you put your best work in. It goes on live TV. It goes out to the universe. The show is over and you're done. You don't take work home with you, literally homework, and you wake up the next day and you start again. And
that is so true.
That's exciting.
That is the first thing I didn't realize until it had happened. When I left Fox and went into teaching, it's like when the day is over at school, it comes back with you, or it's like, oh no, I need to grade these papers, or I need to prepare the things for the next day. When the show was over, it was over. And if it was a good show or if it was a bad show, don't worry, you get to start all over again the next day.
Yeah. And that's probably why we all went in there and played ping pong.
That's right.
Well, and that was, that was a bit of a decompression, right? A decompression for all of us, because it would be done at 10:30 and we're like, all right, who's up for a game, right? And we all go and play ping pong after the newscast to unwind before we headed out. Sometime.
Yeah, I have two memories about that. I love how most of this interview is going to be about ping pong. I have two things about that. The first is that the ping pong table used to be in the scene dock, but then when we switched to this, where the building's getting reconstructed and sports and weather are going to be in this room, somehow the ping pong table got moved into your office because it was huge. That's when it went from a good job to a great job, because we had air conditioned ping pong rather than being out in the seeing dock.
Well, I remember it being at one point too, down the hall in the back storage. It was air
Studio B?
conditioned, but it was like, remember Skyline Productions at the front end of the hall. And as you're walking back toward the studio on that same side of the building the Skyline was, it was in a door back in the left where there were some where Skyline had a lot of their commercial production teams.
See, isn't that where eventually Weather and Sports got built, in that area down on the left?
But that was after
It was
us.
before. Okay, it was after. The other memory I have of ping pong, then we can move on to some other topics. The other memory I have of ping pong is somebody I just ran into a few weeks ago, Randy Roush. I was taking my students to UCF to take a tour of the campus, and Randy was there shooting some video for Spectrum 13, the channel he works at. He was there and he was shooting video, and I'd seen him for the first time in over 10 years. But my greatest memory was he would keep his IFB in and go play ping pong with me until it was time. He'd get like the 2-minute count, and we'd like one more point. And then he's getting called to the set in his IFB, sets the ping pong down, goes out there. Because for me, my job was kind of done once the show started as an editor, because again, it was only a half-hour show. So he'd be like, okay, we got time for one more point. Like we're going to commercial, and he's like, okay, Randy, get out here. Then Alwan would get mad, and he'd call him on the intercom. He's like, Randy, get in here.
Alwan
is
yes.
Hi, Alwan.
The behind the scenes, always so much good going on.
Yes. Alwan Rogers still there at Fox 35.
Amazing.
I got great memories with him. Yes, he's still there. And there's a couple others there. I'm sure you'd still know that were there. Of course, David Martin.
Just about Alwan. First of all, he called me the weather forecastress, which I always thought was pretty cool. And
that should be
I don't know
trademarked.
if you would remember this, but I used to get the hiccups.
Oh, really?
And I could not get rid of them, and Alwan would get rid of them for me.
Like in your earpiece, and he'd scare you or something? Or
No, before I went out, he had like a pinch or something he would do on me, and it would get rid of my hiccups.
No,
Alwan, the secret.
Oh, that's great. Alwan had the secret to get rid of hiccups. That's a good director. He's a very good director there for doing that.
Yes,
So
his talent.
once in a while, as we said, you guys would get to go outside the office. Of course, Donald would anchor 2 days a week, so he'd be out in the field 3 days a week. But there was a time, and it must have been a very rare occasion, where both of you got to go to the Bahamas for Fox 35. Tell us about that.
I don't know how that came together where it worked, because you had the hurricane conference.
Yes, for sure. I would go to weather conferences to keep up my continuing education. The Bahamas conference was a great one. It was a hurricane conference. It was all the content was always really about how to communicate this weather experience to your audience. So it was a really valuable conference for me. But as conferences went, you were in the Bahamas. And of course, the Bahamas were hosting you. The Bahamas government actually put the conference on. They were really interested in educating stateside meteorologists. In Orlando, I might be talking about the Bahamas when I'm talking about a storm coming. And if I didn't understand that there were 600 islands
in the chain
that stretched, the length of the state of Florida, and said, if I was uneducated and said about hurricanes hitting the Bahamas, that would really impact their tourism and their economy, because it could hit 3 of the islands in the southern chain and not the other 597. And so it was incredibly valuable to them to educate meteorologists in the U.S. to speak about the Bahamas properly. So that was really the goal of the conference, is to have that education that I was privy to be able to go to. And again, my news director valued me getting that experience.
And so you're at your conference, you're learning quite a bit, and knowing you loved being at this conference.
Yep.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the island, where are you, Donald?
I'm 60 feet underwater on the bottom in very nice, beautiful white sand and clear water, on my knees in a scuba suit with an auger mask, doing a series for sweeps, I guess at that point. It was on sharks, and us being right there in New Smyrna Beach, being in our market. And we had again recently, surfers being bitten by sharks, and that's one of the higher densities of shark bites, right? The higher percentages in the state at New Smyrna. And of course, his name escapes me. I'm sorry, but this longtime professor studying sharks at UF, was the guy to go to. But it was in a way just giving people information about sharks. Here they are. They're out there, right? Do they want to eat us for real? We're in their waters. And so I think Bill said, well, why don't you go and do this? And then you could also, you're all around guy, one man band as well. I could run a camera, I could edit, I could do everything. He said, well, you could shoot some stuff for Jan about the hurricane conference, and then you can go and do the stories with that. So it ended up, Jan was there doing the hurricane conference. They also had a live feed. She could do some live shots for the 10 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
We gathered some information too that she could do some stories that she brought back.
Together,
And then I did a 3 or 4 part series on the shark diving, but mainly about sharks, how they act, just what's behind it, and kind of sharing all that, just educating folks. Every day we had newcomers to the state of Florida that were moving into our state.
Yeah.
Who knew Donald Jones may have invented Shark Week? You did a whole series before it was a thing.
And the outfit that set us up that we went with, which we didn't know at the time, I mentioned it's called an auger mask, and it's a full face mask, right? Instead of a mask and a regulator. So it had a mic. Mm-hmm. And their guys had underwater videographers. So
that's what I was going to ask, the technology side of things.
Do a stand up, a scuba up, 60 feet down. I would, you're breathing, but then you just hold the button and you could talk
underwater.
And it was the coolest thing. I was like, this is what a great opportunity to be able to see what we're talking about and bring the audience or our viewers 60 feet down around all these sharks that are surrounding us and talk about it. And that's one of the tapes in my garage, Art, and I got to get it.
I was going to say, I was wondering if you had kept that, because that'd be another reason for me to go back there to go through the DVC tapes, because all you have to do is do a search in iNews, and how many searches are there for Donald and Shark? I'm sure it would pop right up.
Oh, how I remember iNews.
iNews. Oh, yeah. Was that a trip down memory lane saying iNews? They still do use iNews there, but those first few years when we didn't type the information into the computer, Mikey and I would do the handwritten, and I went back there, like I said, I was there 2 weeks ago, and I took some photos. All the books from 98, 99 on to 2000 and when they stopped writing in the books, all the books are still there. So if you happen to say, I know I was there September of something, you could go through the books and the tape number will be there. But I think we'll try and do another one of these interviews with a group of us again, and we'll try and pull some old tapes if they allow us. I don't know. Is that fair use? I don't know how that works. I'll talk to my lawyer. I'll talk to the Overtime Studios lawyer to see what they say, because it'd be great to play some of these old tapes and let you reminisce about it. Do a little director's commentary on some of the things you see.
So are you teaching broadcast?
Yes, I'm teaching TV broadcasting. Yeah, I'm finishing my 6th year here, and awesome. when I left Fox 35, it was because the principal of my daughter's school saw me volunteer the whole school year, and she says, if you come here, I'll give you 2 empty classrooms and you could build your own TV studio. So what you guys had done in 98, I got to do in 2016. I got to build my own TV studio and kind of create my own program and my own curriculum. So yeah, TV broadcasting.
Well, that is amazing, and kudos to you for doing that.
Thank
and teaching those communication skills, whether they go on to be in broadcast news or not, are incredibly valuable.
And
that's what it is.
Being a teacher and teaching our future generation and giving them those.
Being a teacher of the year.
Right. Teacher of the year.
That is correct. Teacher of the year. I'm surprised I have time to even talk to you. I'm so busy being teacher of the year.
But thank you for committing to our future generations and being a teacher.
It's been a lot of fun because they didn't really have it there before. So they kind of, all right, we'll build this, we'll put that in. And then I'm kind of like, what do you want me to do? And they're kind of like, what do you want to do? So they kind of let me put my own curriculum together, and we record the news every day. It's funny. It's kind of like when we started at Fox 35, it was just a 30-minute show every day. I do my own little 10-minute show every day, and we put it up on Facebook every day and YouTube every day. But you're right, when you said it's about communication, basically what I'm teaching is just public speaking and self-confidence.
It's great.
Public and listening.
And listening skills, yes.
they're going to take that so far, Art, because I tell you, I loved history, and I enjoyed writing and in English, and so that's how I parlayed. I'm like, well, journalism, okay, and then I had to take a public speaking class in my junior high.
Yep.
And then I got into theater, but because of that public speaking, and I was like, I can do this, and that confidence led me into broadcast journalism. And I think, whatever they choose to do, whether they go into some type of field like that, they'll take that wherever they go. And that's awesome. Instilling the confidence, giving them the soft skills, the people skills, and being able to relate is awesome.
I tell my students also that because everything we record is on YouTube, in comparison to what you guys had to do when you applied for the job at Fox 35, in the rain, you ran a couple of VHS tapes over to Lewis. But today I tell my kids, if there's ever a day in the future where you apply for a job in television and the news director asks you, how long have you been doing this? You can pull up your middle school's YouTube page and say, I've been doing it this long, because it's going to last forever. It'll always be there.
That is great.
And that's amazing experience to have that level, that grasp of communicating a message to an audience is a great skill.
And my timing was perfect because right at the time, Fox 35 was also getting a whole new $1 million set. So they gave me a big section of downtown Orlando. And that's what the backdrop is to my kids.
Yes,
there's no green screen. It's just the backdrop of Orlando.
And the fountain, right?
And the fountain. Yes, that's right. It is the fountain. Now, the backdrop that you guys had, again, I was visiting UCF a couple of weeks ago. They still have that second set. The first set was just that little desk with Joanne, and it was in Studio B at the time. Then you guys got that second set. It was a bigger desk with the metal columns and stuff behind you. UCF still has that. They've had that over 15 years, and they still use that. But they replaced the skyline. It was a nighttime skyline. They replaced that with just monitors because that's what everybody does now. But another reason they probably took it down was the skyline has changed so much since then. It's an outdated sky. So I saw it sitting on the floor off to the side, but it was your old nighttime background of downtown Orlando.
You should have said, "Can I take that?"
Part of me did want to take that. I mean, it's nighttime, but it's like, if you guys aren't going to do anything with this, I think I would like to go back and visit them because it may just end up sitting on the floor like a lot of old equipment and technology.
Were they
and just
using the nighttime background for the morning show?
Yeah, did we use the nighttime background? Oh no, wait a minute. No, the morning show had their own background.
Like a pull down.
Wasn't it like a window, and then it looked like there was like sunshine coming through the window or something? Yes. So you're right. And since you guys only did a 10 o'clock show, you only needed a nighttime background on your show.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. So yeah, it's sitting off to the side. It was a little sad to see it tilted over on its side. He's like, oh yeah, there's one of the old pieces. And I'm like, it was that. And I picture the song in my head when the show would open, when I saw that little backdrop of you guys were sitting at that anchor desk with that backdrop for many, many years.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So one of the things I think I'm cheating and looking at my notes. I want to let everybody know once again, this is Donald and Janice Jones, our first meteorologist, weekend meteorologist and weekend anchor that started in 1998. You moved on from Fox to go to other stations, and then eventually you broke off from the station thing and you started something on your own. Tell us now where people can find you online and what it is the two of you are doing.
Yeah, we have our own company now.
Yes.
We are doing video marketing and
2012.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you passed 10 years now. Yeah. Is this the longest job you've ever had?
We were in.
That's a good question.
Well, we were at our last station was NBC Raleigh, and I think we were there close to 10 years.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I left the station earlier than we moved.
Yeah. So yes, it is. This is the longest.
So how is it that you help people now? What is it that you guys do on a day-to-day basis?
We tell
great stories.
Yeah.
We produce content, video marketing content. So promotional, branding, social media, website content for businesses. A majority of our clients are travel and tourism. We're in Florida. But we have clients that range from satellite companies to professional speakers, and we're producing video to help promote their business or their brand.
Yeah, it could be anything from a launch to just populating the website with something that they want to update.
Campaigns.
A lot of that turns into social, and then many cuts thereafter, because we might do a primary 16:9, and as you know, and the kids know, everything turns into 9:16,
Yeah.
1 by 1 square, so that they can not only go from their website, but put it out on all these other channels. So it's fun. And the fun thing is we get to do what we did, right? We're helping people grow their business. We're helping people learn about new things and have fun. And at the same time, it's always something new for us. And we're like, wow, this is so great. And you know,
we enjoy the content of it much better than the news.
Oh, certainly. News, weather, traffic.
I mean, come on. After so many years, it's hard, and everybody knows that.
What was that conversation like between the two of you? Where did one of you say to the other, I think we can do this?
Well,
rather than work for somebody else, you could work for ourselves?
Well, I left my contract when we had a 1-year-old. And we have 2 sons now, but we had 1 son at the time, and we were on opposite shifts. And I was doing all the evening weathercasts,
and I was morning anchor,
and he was the morning anchor. And when we originally started that, where he stayed home the first year of our son's life, and took care of him. On his first birthday, he went back to anchoring the morning newscast, and we thought, this is great. We can take care of our kids.
It worked. Here you go. Your turn. Hey, my turn.
A few years later, fast forward to a few years later, when I get home from work at about midnight, climb in bed like 1 a.m. His alarm goes off at 2 a.m. We have a child who's sleeping, who went to bed with daddy and then wakes up at 6 a.m., but I've just gotten in bed at 1 a.m. And I have a speaking engagement at 9, or I'm going to speak at, teach a weather class somewhere. Can someone watch the baby until he gets home from his shift?
A lot of tiptoeing around the house in those hours of you're coming home and he's going out. Yeah.
And I wanted a more balanced home life. And I chose to step away from broadcast news. And I went back to I kind of still, and today am. I have producing roots. So I have a journalism degree alongside my meteorology degree. And my first job was a producer while I was finishing my meteorology degree. I went back to my journalism roots and did magazine writing. And then I started a weather education camp where I taught kids. And where we lived in North Carolina was year-round school, which also meant year-round camp opportunities, because someone was always out of school. You would go to school for about 6 to 8 weeks and then be off for 3 or 4 weeks. But there were 4 tracks that did that. So someone was always tracking out. Yeah. So like you'd have a YMCA camp in the summer, in that area you had a camp all year round. So I taught a weather camp while he continued to anchor.
Yeah.
And then when his contract ended, I think we decided that we were ready to explore some new things. And
my contract was coming up, and it was, do we re-sign this? These are the options. And we said, let's move on and try to start something. So we did. We moved back home to Florida, because our families were like, hey, if you're going to start something, why not be here? Because we can help with the kids. Well, aren't they sorry? They said.
It's a good selling point.
It worked out. It all fell into place. Again, we are just very fortunate that we did the whole blindfold step off the cliff art, and here we are 11 years later, and we're super grateful.
Yeah, we just really said, what do we like to do? What are we good at? And again, it was the roots of our journalism and storytelling. And Donald, as he said, he always liked to keep, even as an anchor, he kept his hands in on the
technology, cameras. And so I just always was following up on it. And, it's always good to do that, right? And so then I was able to jump right in to being basically our main cinematographer and directing stuff, Janice helping on that and editing. And then we built crews, and it just flew in from there.
So I heard you mention Janice with the editing and producing. I have a question, and then I'll tell you why I'm asking the question after. Does Janice shoot video at all?
No, and I don't edit either.
Okay. Oh, I thought Donald said editing. Okay. So the reason I asked that is because there was one time I told the story on the 2-hour episode. where I think they found out from somebody because of my demo tape, maybe, that I used to shoot wedding videos. So as soon as they found that out, I'd go out and shoot teases a lot. Like, oh, go to the newsroom, shoot a tease coming up later at 10. And there was one time where the shuttle was about to go off. So I was like, you know what, Janice? Let's go outside and shoot a tease. And you do like a coming up at 10 o'clock, we'll tell you about, and then you look over your shoulder and the shuttle was going off. And I remember walking back in and telling you something about like, yeah, they need me to shoot this. And Janice was like, oh, never tell them you can shoot. And I didn't learn that lesson fast enough. It wasn't until after the fact.
I remember that. Yes.
I remember the tease. You guys went out there, you shot it, you nailed it. The shuttle's over her shoulder. She delivers the tease, and y'all come back in, and boom, it was done.
Art, I probably put that in my resume tape for my next job.
Yes.
Yeah. And it wasn't, and it's not only bad that you told him you could shoot, you did a great job.
Right.
And so boom, you were the tease shooter after that.
I bet to look at it now, it'd probably be a really shaky camera, but that's kind of more acceptable now, isn't it? That's more of that style.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, the shuttle, it wasn't too dark out. I didn't need the light, I don't think. And the shuttle was just blazing in the background. It was perfect. Well, I'm glad you put that on your tape. I never would have thought to put that on tape because it's like, who's going to put teases on their demo tapes? Well, somebody who has the shuttle over their shoulder. So good thing. I'm glad you did. Some of the other things that you guys did after you left, I suddenly had this memory of something Joe Dorsey and go-karts or something that you guys did. Does that sound familiar?
Oh, that was
when we got to St. Augustine, right?
No, that was Children's Miracle Network.
Is that what you're thinking of?
I think that's while I was still there, which, the other side of being in news life and being on air, and especially when you're one of the main talent or an anchor of some, you get to go out into the community and
represent.
But it's really a great opportunity because you get to experience so much more and really make some good human connections. And that was Art, I'm telling you, that was one of my most favorite things of all in the markets, was helping out with the Children's Miracle Network show that Joe Dorsey and John DeMaio and
Walter Lowe.
Walter Lowe. And they were all on the crew, and we would just do fun stuff and bring people into what was happening. And the go-kart race helped raise money for Children's Miracle Network. And at that time, I think too, it was connected to Arnold Palmer Children's Hospital. And so it was just awesome. It was one of those where you can get out of the newsroom and the news cycle and really connect with people, and then you're helping the kids out. And it was awesome. It was so much fun. But then we've connected with.
You went back, even when we moved to Raleigh. You went back.
Yes, yeah. When
it was a yearly event,
and just helped anchor that for the show that the guys did, because they were on the Skyline production team.
Yeah, and those three names that you mentioned, that was Johnny and Joe and Walter. It's nice to know for you guys, though, at any moment, you could have started playing ping pong with them as well. We were all very well. See how I brought it all back to ping pong again?
And then we had the fortune of working with them after on different production projects. So
because right around the same time they were putting their company together, Blackburst. As a matter of fact, if you look over my shoulder, Walter Lowe from Blackburst did the drone footage of the downtown Orlando for me.
Yes.
And I asked him one day, I was like, I'm going to do this thing. Can you give me like 10 seconds of drone footage? And he gives me like 5 minutes. So he's like, here, you can just use this. So thank you, Walter.
But as representative of the rest of the team, these guys were super talented, young go-getters, energetic, nice as can be.
Hard workers.
Yes. And, to this day, we can still pick up the phone, and even if it hasn't been a while, it's been a while. It's just reconnecting and saying, "Hey, do you know somebody here that can do this job?" Or we got a production shoot.
Yes.
It's great.
We love having that connection.
Going off and starting your own business, you have this Rolodex of your own all-star team you could put together when it's time to work on a project. And there were certainly a lot of all-stars at Skyline and Fox 35 those years that we were there.
I mean, hey, we may need a teacher of the year at some point.
Well, I will flip through my calendar and see my availability, but it's weird. Teacher of the year, it says Teacher of the Year 2024. They don't let you be the Teacher of the Year until you get the next full school year. So my reign of power actually doesn't begin until 2024.
You can plan.
And that was probably making sure that you stay, right?
That's one of the things I was like, okay, congratulations. I know you're going to put this on your resume, but it doesn't start till the next year. So think about that if you decide to leave us.
Yeah, awesome.
I know you must be having fun though, because it really is great working with
It
young
is a
people.
lot of fun because the kids who sign up for my class actually signed up to be in my class. They want to do this. I'll get some kids who are hesitant about sitting at the anchor desk. They're like, oh, this is cool. But then they see the words go up the screen and it's like, oh, I don't think I want to do this because the prompter's going. But then, so we built a podcast studio. So it's like no scripts there. It's just kind of free talking, pick your own discussions, and you can talk as much as you want about certain school topics and no prompter in there. So the kids who don't like being on camera to read the prompter can go sit in the podcast studio. And I really have a lot of fun there because, I work with real teachers. Like I see what the math, English, science, social studies, I see what they're going through and I see how hard it is that they work. So when I had an assignment last year where I had all my students make their own business cards, I made a business card for myself, but I didn't have the heart to put teacher on it because I see what real teachers do. So I'm news director. So it says news director on mine.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that looks way better.
You are a teacher.
You are raising you could be raising our next crew members.
That's
Not
right.
raising, educating up.
And the next informers and the next, or whatever. They could just, what if they become they remember Art Miles
Communicators.
And then they say my name at some acceptance speech one day. Oh, that'd be so great. I'm looking forward to that. I've got students from year one that my first year now, they've just graduated high school or first year of college. And
Wow.
I do hear back from them. And I have kids that have moved on to high school that I still use we do this red carpet event every year they do a charity event for Seminole County every year. And we get our red carpets and we do the, who are you? What are you wearing type stuff? What's it like to be here tonight? And so I reconnect with old students still because I do see some of them that I know are going to do this one day. They're going to be on television. They're going to do the news. And I try and connect. That part I didn't think about when I took the job. I thought, I'm going to start making friends with kids in the future. So there are some that are starting to get older now who are going to have a career in news. I can see that for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, they're lucky to have you.
Well, thank you very much. That would be a great way to end this. But I do have one other question that I've been asking everybody that I've been interviewing. I'm putting together a song playlist, and I'm looking for a song from each of you. When you've had your long day of owning your own company, and you just want to sit and relax or sit in the hammock and relax, what's that one song that you like to listen to? And it's kind of like my hammock playlist, I'm calling it. I'll let you think about that. Maybe I'll ask another question while you think about that. What's on your hammock playlist, like your favorite song you might want to play to just relax to? But then while you're thinking of that,
this day, right now?
Yeah, like to this day, what's the song you could listen to and it would just like put you at ease as you're falling asleep in the hammock?
That's an easy one. It's Bob Marley for me, and probably Every Little Thing's Gonna Be All Right.
Very good. Yes.
A lot of people may not remember it, but Janice moved north to Florida. She was born in St. Croix and grew up in U.S. Virgin Islands.
Okay.
So she has a lot of that connection to reggae music, and because of that, I've always enjoyed it as well. But that's a good one. Art, my relaxing and decompression, or I could say moving meditation, is cycling. So I go on trails or gravel, roads, and I'm out in the middle of the forest, and I've got my right earbud in.
Mm-hmm.
And the other day I'm always listening to 80s alternative.
Sure, of course.
That was what was happening right in my high school years. And there's so much good stuff there. But
it makes you happy and it has a pace.
It makes you happy, it has a pace. And one of them is Aha, Take On Me.
Of course. That is good bike riding music. It's got a good pace to it, doesn't it?
And all of a sudden you're just like, I can go and I'm going to crush it. And that and Journey. Guess which one?
Let's see. For bike riding, Separate Ways.
Believing.
Don't stop believing. Very good. That'll get you motivated to go up that hill on the bike. That's true. That's very good. Do you guys? I'll ask you this real quick. TikTok. Do you guys watch the TikTok at all? The kids with the TikTok.
Very little.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is that because I see somebody recently has created something you put on the app, and it's the Aha song, Take On Me, where you put your phone and it's you, and as you slide the phone over, it makes it look like you're in the video.
And it does the little black and white charcoal sketch. I have seen that, definitely seen that. And I won't call you out on it, Art, but it's been around a while.
Oh, God.
The sketch.
The template.
The TikTok.
Just insulted the teacher of the year.
filter.
That's fine.
But the only reason we see them is because we'll watch them, because the TikToks would then share their TikToks over through Reels, so they could cover both platforms, and we're catching it over there.
I'm learning that a lot too.
We produce that for clients. We produce Reels and things like that. So we have to keep tabs on those things, but we're
Nothing.
So the Jones family's running their own business out. What's the name of the business?
Cycle
Here
Here
Media.
Cycle Here Media. And just give us an example, not necessarily a client's name, but give us an example of a project you're working on right now.
Well, one of our clients, which is okay to share, is Visit Florida. Visit Florida is the state of Florida's marketing entity. And they've been a client of ours since 2012. So we produce a lot of their video assets. So for things that you might see in Florida, but things that are seen in Brazil and London and Canada and
Germany,
Chicago and
feeder markets,
travel
feeder markets.
Yeah, travel feeder markets. But we're producing videos about what is attractive to come and explore and experience in Florida. We're right now on a project it's a social media project, so you would see it in Visit Florida's Instagram Reels section. It also goes on their YouTube and their Facebook and all that. But it's you've got to try this.
The family edition.
We just finished or wrapping the family edition.
They have them on adventure. They have them on for chefs, and we're doing the family. So you'll see those on the Visit Florida YouTube channel right now.
Okay.
So things like experiencing Seacrest Wolf Preserve, where you can go and interact with American gray wolves and
that are at a rescue, or a swim with manatees,
or ride airboats through the Everglades, or go shell hunting and go fossil hunting. Wow. So we do a lot of research and dig up these experiences and film them and produce content that Visit Florida puts out in all of their media platforms. Yeah.
I feel like that you probably have no time for this, but I feel like the two of you have a podcast in you somewhere, or you could be doing this once a week, just talking to yourselves and talking to other people
all the time. And we always say, we will.
Yeah.
We're so busy.
And not just that.
What comes to mind is Penn Holderness and Kim, how you see they're busy, but they have a podcast, and it's a great idea just to reconnect with people and talk and your thoughts. And I feel like you guys have that in you. And then one day when you do a podcast, you'll pull this clip and you'll talk about how, that's the day we decided to do a podcast.
We will say we have one in the works.
Very good.
And it's kind of just out there. I'm a sweets guy. I love dessert.
There you go. You've got a topic already.
Food have stories.
So we can talk about almost anything.
And we always joke. I always joke that I need something sweet after breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So,
See, but what Janice just said, you're right. You guys could talk about anything, and I think viewers would be interested in that. And I know there's a lot of podcasts out there, but you know what? You bring other people in with you, and you're interviewing people, or you're just talking about your day to day with the business, and you get a few.
Got one listener.
Yes, there you go. That's
Thanks,
one.
We'll let you know. We'll let you know when we launch.
Okay, you have a launch. Well, I know you're busy. You've got a business to run, and you've got kids to take care of, and you've got this future podcast to work on. So I'm going to let you go, but I want to say thank you so much. I was so glad I got to be a part of that little window of time that we're all starting to now realize was one of our greatest work experiences ever.
Likewise, it's been a treat getting to reminisce with you, Art.
Yeah, okay, I hope to reconnect again with another group meeting where we watch Janice breathing heavily doing 976 phone calls.
Great experiences. Always grateful, and loved working with you as well, bud. Thank you.
Thank you. So great to reconnect with you guys.
That's all for this episode. Thanks to Donald and Janice for spending time with us. We got 2 interviews for the price of 1 on this one. Very happy with the way it turned out. Thank you very much to them. That's all for this week. When I see you guys again, we'll have another interview with another Fox 35 alumni. Until then, Walter, thanks for the drone footage.